MIAA Monday back again this week. Commissioner Mike Racy, thank you as always for coming on. Busy time of the year. Not that there's not a busy time of the year for you guys, but thanks for coming on again.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Yeah, we've caught our breath a little bit after the winter championships, and we're geared up and ready to go for spring sports. A lot going on right now, and the next 4 weeks, I think we'll crown 8 more MIAA conference champions. So fun time.
The spring season is always the interesting one because we have to deal with, Missouri weather and Kansas weather, Oklahoma weather. Right? There's no consistency through the weather through any of this. But what excites you the most about when we get into spring seasons? Because they start back in February for the most part, and everybody's kind of still in that winter, sports mode. But now that you get into April, it's bang, 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 and here comes the conference championships all in a row.
Yeah, I think the thing that excites me for this spring, similar to what we just went through with winter, is that things feel a little bit like we're back to normal. We've got the historic championship field sizes that we've had at MIAA tournaments. Last year was restricted, smaller brackets, smaller tournaments. Obviously the spring before that was when the NCAA shut everything down and no spring championships. So it feels good. It feels like we're back to normal. We've got a lot of schools in the MIAA that are, pressing the national rankings. UCM's the new number 1 in baseball. I think Rogers State is number 4, number 3 in women's softball. Central Oklahoma's ranked top 5 in women's tennis. Pitt State and Central Missouri are both top 5 in men's track. So we've got schools that are poised to make a challenge for a national championship, and that's always exciting. Something that we love in the MIAA, and just excited to see what happens the next 4 weeks.
You bring up the fact, and we always find ourselves going back into COVID conversations a little bit because that's still so timely. But to just be 2 seasons removed, I guess, from having everything canceled to have things going back to normal, and who knows how the process has been for each student athlete, each coach to get back to this point. But to see things running smoothly again, what does that show you? But I mean, you had everything canceled for about 8 months between spring and fall sports to now getting back into the rhythm less than 2 years after the fact.
Well, it shows me that we've got a conference that works very well together. It's a very competitive conference, as you and I have talked about, Chris. And I think everybody that watches the MIAA understands that, these are some of the best schools, some of the best programs in Division II. But I think what we've seen the last 2 years is, even though there's this spirit of competitiveness among the institutions, there's also a great spirit of cooperation. And that's had to be on display during COVID for us to figure out ways to get these games in. We had to work together to develop protocols that we could all agree to and honor. There had to be a lot of trust in that process. There had to be a lot of cooperation in games that had to be postponed and rescheduled. And we've continued with our weekly COVID task force calls and a group that monitors everything we're doing, and including what we're doing this spring. So it's been a 2-year process for the conference. It's gotten to this point where it feels like we're back to normal, but a lot of work, a lot of activity, a lot of cooperation that's helped us get to this point as a league.
Along those lines too, I've been talking to a lot of student athletes lately too about what they're going to remember about their playing days. And I don't know if it's been more reflection because of COVID and everything like that, and for as divided as a lot of things are right now. I ask them, what are you going to remember about your teammates? Is it on the field stuff? Is that off the field stuff? Because there's record breakers, there's championships, and none of them really go with that. Do you think that's part of this too? Is kind of, yeah, winning's the big thing, but they're not going to remember some of that. They're going to remember how they had to come together and be closer, maybe because of everything the last 24 months.
Yeah, and that's the power of intercollegiate athletics. That's why I'm in the work that I do. I believe that intercollegiate athletics can change people's lives. The opportunities that students are provided on our campuses to develop skills of leadership and teamwork and overcoming adversity and how to plan, how to set goals, how to commit and work towards team objectives. Those are all great skills that our students develop. And maybe the most powerful thing that happens for our student athletes is a sense of purpose and belonging and being part of a group of people that accomplish very special things. And when these young people, when they get back together, 10, 15, 20 years from now at weddings and baptisms and kids getting married, they're gonna talk about, you remember when we went to the Elite Eight or we won the national title. That's the moment. But the stories they're gonna tell are about that road trip or about that funny thing that happened in practice or that time that they were hanging out after a summer workout together. Those are the things that create these memories for our student athletes. So I hear the same stories that you just shared, Chris, regarding experiences that our student athletes have, and it happens in all three divisions. But I think you're right. I think that COVID and what our student athletes had to go through to get back on the practice fields, to get back in competition, they probably appreciate these experiences even more and consider them even more valuable in who they are and how they've developed as a person.
Kind of moving this forward now, and 9 months into all the changes in the NCAA, if people thought we weren't going to talk about changes in this podcast, they were wrong. The Constitution Task Force for the MIAA, kind of getting that going because the NCAA changes are fluid. They're constant since we've talked about last July. You guys are kind of gearing up for that to kind of get ready for the next convention in January 2023, because I'm guessing there's a feeling that things aren't done changing yet either.
Yeah, and I'm excited about this project. We're going to announce it's either going to be this afternoon or tomorrow, Chris, and we'll use this podcast to share that news first, breaking news. But the MIAA, we are appointing a Constitution Task Force. It's going to be led by a couple of our presidents, co-chaired by Dr. John Mosley, president at Lincoln University, and Dr. Elizabeth Kennedy, the president at Missouri Western. They have been asked to co-chair this task force. The task force will be made up of 3 or 4 athletic directors, 2 of our senior women administrators, and we're also going to have a faculty member that's a part of this group. And really what they're being asked to do is to take a look at how intercollegiate athletics has changed in the last 18 to 24 months, including the institution or the NCAA constitutional votes that just took place in January. And let's make sure that the MIAA as an organization is prepared to take on these challenges and opportunities in this new world of intercollegiate athletics. We've talked before, Chris, that a lot of things that historically have been decided and managed by the NCAA in a world following the Alston Supreme Court decision, a lot of those things are now going to fall at the local level, campus or conference. And we need to be ready. And so this task force has been asked to meet a few times this summer and fall. They will issue a report next January for our CEOs The task force reports directly to our MIAA president's group. And I imagine that based on the recommendations that the task force will issue, there will be a number of changes that we will need to make in our Constitution, in our MIAA bylaws, in our operating policies, in our structure and how we're organized and how we make decisions. And I'm confident it's going to put the MIAA in a position where it will continue to excel in the world of intercollegiate sports.
And with that, what's maybe one area that you feel like MIAA's got to kind of stay ahead of the curve on, if that's even possible at this point in college athletics, just because things are rapidly changing and we've seen that. I guess what is one area maybe that you feel is pretty important to kind of take a look at and say, okay, are we doing this the best way we can?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've learned the last couple of years is that the model that we've had in place in how often our different leadership groups meet, that needs to be changed. And we've just kind of modified that on the fly during COVID. We've historically operated with our presidents getting together a couple of times a year, RADs and leadership group, getting together in person a couple of times a year. What we found is that we need a nimble structure that can act quickly to address critical issues that really can't wait. And so I think that to me is one of the big things that we're going to have to analyze is how decisions get made, who makes those decisions, who has the authority, how do those groups get called together, when they meet, what do those agendas look like? How are we meeting? I guess everybody's new favorite instrument is Zoom. Is that the best way for us to get together to make decisions? So those are a number of things I think that the task force is going to look at, just related to the way we're organized and how we do business. But COVID taught us that we need to have people that can get on the phone or get involved in a meeting, a virtual meeting, and be ready to make decisions on 24, 48 hours notice, and have those decisions that are approved and impact the entire conference, that can't go through another round of consideration and decision making. So rapid, quick decision making, a nimble structure. Those are the top things on my list.
Does some of that kind of lean into the fact the NCAA is letting things kind of unfold at local levels more than kind of that one size fit all too? Is that kind of maybe where that comes from too, instead of waiting on, what NCAA is saying for everybody? Now there's a little bit more, I don't know if freedom's the right word, but more independence for the conference to make a decision what's best for them inside Division II.
Yeah, and that's another big part of this, that we're going to have to analyze where all of our resources are going. We're going to be forced as a conference to make some decisions on whether this is what the MIAA wants to do, or is this something we want to take a pass on. It's not a one size fits all for the division as it relates to various policies and regulations. A good one is the one that the NCAA Division I schools are wrestling with right now, related to additional academic benefits that student athletes could receive. The door's open for the MIAA to walk into that if it chooses, and we're going to have to make some of those decisions. But to make those decisions, we're going to need data. We're going to need information. We're going to have to, as a conference, be able to tap into things that help us evaluate issues and consider what's best for our member schools. And so it is a new world, a new day, Chris, where some things could happen in the MIAA that's not happening in other conferences around Division II. And we need to be able to evaluate and make sure that's the right thing for Division II MIAA athletics.
Is this also kind of maybe a way to make sure that the conference stays together? I mean, at this point, Division two, you haven't seen it so much. You've seen some move up Division one, but is that kind of another way that this task force can kind of keep the conference kind of strong together, whether it's, down the line adding or whatever happens in the future, but making sure there's not a all of a sudden jumping ship type of stuff that trying to go to Division one all at the same time or anything like that?
Yeah, no doubt that our mission as a conference, as an association, is harmony, and the theory that the rising tide lifts all boats. We have to help our member schools across the MIAA understand that regardless where they see themselves from a competitive standpoint, from a facility standpoint, from a budget standpoint, the MIAA gives those institutions, all of our institutions, the best opportunities to be successful. And that's part of this as well, is helping make sure that we solidify our membership, that we make sure that our core values as an association continue to represent what we believe is the appropriate student athlete experience on our MIAA campuses. And certainly that part of membership protection is something this task force can get into.
And of course, probably this question was coming anyway, but is this going to also cover NIL, transfer portal, these rising issues that are just not going away or not shrinking? They're becoming bigger and bigger, it seems like, every day.
Yeah, go down the list of the things that we've talked about on this podcast the last 9 to 12 months, and those are all issues that this task force will have to get into, including probably the biggest one is the health and safety of our student athletes, and the things that we're doing from an education and risk management standpoint to make sure that on our MIAA campuses, student athletes are getting the best care that they could get anywhere else in the country. And the type of things that our trainers, our medical staff, our administrators are doing to look out for the health and well-being of our students. That's priority one. So all of those things you listed, NIL, transfer portal, just the way that we practice, the way that we compete, the way we travel, the way we recruit, all of those things are open for analysis as this task force, starts its mission. We've talked about a lot of things that they're going to have to look at. As I'm going through this list, Chris, I'm thinking to myself, this may be more than just a summer or fall project. They may issue their initial report to the presidents and still have some work to do. But it's an exciting announcement for our conference, and I think it's going to, like I said, I think it's going to position the MIAA for success and to excel in this new environment of college sports.
Absolutely. I want to get you out of here on this question. We'll probably dive into this deeper. And, I have talked about it before a little bit, and it all goes back to the transfer portal. I'm sure you've seen it and other people have seen it too. The tweet that went around with the data on just Division II going into the portal and finding a place to play. Numbers exactly haven't been great for student athletes. And, we know there's a variety of reasons why, the transfers happen, whether closer to home or things just aren't working out or a coach leaves. But no sports are over 32% in Division II of finding a new place. Is that something concerning, I guess, to kind of maybe helping these student athletes not get lost in the shuffle, not getting quote unquote stuck in the portal or just forgot about in the portal either, because there is this constant flow between Division I, Division II, Division III of just so many just trying to figure out where they belong to.
I saw those same statistics, Chris, and I would label them as concerning. It speaks to about 75% of student athletes that are saying they would like to go someplace else and play are finding that opportunity is not there. And I think we're not going to put the genie back in the bottle on the transfer issue. It's gonna be with us. This is a new privilege, a new right that student athletes have, the right to move and to transfer and to to express their interest in looking at a possible new place to be a student athlete. So what we've got to do, and we addressed this at the NCAA convention in January, is better education and information for student athletes to make these decisions before they enter their name into the portal. There has to be a process for our student athletes to go through where they're able to understand, some of the data, some of the statistics, some of the risks, some of the things that may concern them about where they're at and how they may be able to address those issues while still staying at the institution they're enrolled. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done to help those numbers improve. And I think there's a lot of work that, our MIAA coaches certainly are recognizing that they need to do each year. It's now a world where our coaches are basically recruiting their team again each year on, the benefits and what's positive about them remaining as part of the program and progressing towards their degree and, earning that spot that they're disappointed they don't have yet in the starting lineup or a major contributor to the team. And so our coaches understand that, there's work that they need to do in helping student athletes really see how their future at the particular school they're at may not be as dark as they might think it is. So there's a lot of work to do, but that certainly is a concerning statistic that only 25% of the Division II student athletes that have entered the portal have found a new place to go and compete.
And I'm sure we'll talk about the portal and the numbers more as we go, but I'll leave everybody with this part of the stat too, is football in Division II, more than 1,600 entered the portal, 358 found a transfer with only 22%. And, there's a variety of reasons why, like we talked about, it could be going closer to home, better fits, but hopefully, the portal kind of figures itself out, or at least student athletes, find a way to kind of know or find the help to get where they want to be too. Cause it's no easy task to kind of figure out, make those decisions at, 18 to 22 years old of, where should I go? What's best for me? And having a lot of people probably in your ear telling you what you should do.
Yeah. There are a lot of legitimate reasons why a student athlete's decision on where they initially want to go to school, where that's not the best fit and they need to go someplace else. And I'm proud that college athletics, now has this process that can help student athletes, improve their lives and make a better decision. But with that, there needs to be a lot of education, a lot of thought, a lot of reflection before student athletes are able to just put their name in a portal and in some cases burn a bridge that is going to really impact them for many, many years. So it's a big issue and one that we need to spend a lot of time thinking about in Division II. How do we make sure that these students that have legitimate reasons why they want to leave and go someplace else, those are the ones that get into the portal and are taken care of. Student athletes that maybe haven't thought it through, we give them a little more information to make sure they're making the right decision.
Absolutely. So what we covered today is a Constitution Task Force being created for, recommendations for the MIAA. We covered spring sports MIAA championships, transfer portal, and we're just getting started. I'm assuming this summer with just everything is going to keep going. So
yeah, absolutely.
MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy, thank you as always for coming on.
You bet. Good to see you, Chris. Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you, sir.